So we're bowling off on the SportsMax zone on this Friday with cricket. The West Indies kept their hopes of securing one of the final two spots to the Women's World Cup set for September alive with a narrow 6-run win over Ireland earlier on Friday in Lahore, Pakistan. Gerard Morrisseely has a recap of the encounter, which was delayed by over an hour due to rain.
Match 5 reduced to 33 overs, with West Indies needing a win against Ireland to still have any chance at qualifying for the ICC Women's World Cup. There was early trouble when skipper Hayley Matthews went for 23 and Kiana Joseph 4 to leave the Windies 29 for 1 in the power play. It took an 87-run fourth wicket partnership between veteran Stefani Taylor and Zayda James to steady the ship for the Caribbean women.
This is a glorious stroke. The perfect back foot punch.
Jay Maguire was the best Irish bowler with 3 for 35, delivering a double whammy in the 24th over, removing Taylor 4 runs short of a 42nd WODI 50, and the St. Lucian James 2 deliveries later for 36. 117
clean bowled, and it's a lovely little cutter from Jane Maguire.
Chanel Henry added 25 runs in the final 5 overs, including a 6 and a 4 to end unbeaten on 46 and push the Caribbean women to 181 for 6 in their allotment. Ireland got a good start to their run chase from openers Amy Hunter and skipper Gabby Lewis, adding 57 runs.
Nicely guided into the leg side. That's a really good stroke.
Before player of the match, Matthews got the breakthrough, removing Lewis for 17.
Beauty, and it's Matthews that strikes from nowhere.
And that was the opening West Indies needed to put a dent in Ireland's pursuit of 182.
Oh, she goes back to one that probably should have come forward to.
Matthews' last 3 bowling options ably supported her, with Karishma Ramharak and Aliyah Ali getting 2 wickets each.
Cut away and taken.
Arlene Kelly and Cara Murray kept Ireland in the game, bringing them within 9 runs of the target with 7 balls remaining.
Slashed away and slashed away for 4.
But the skipper again was the hero for her team, grabbing her second 4-for of the tournament, 4 for 24, dismissing Ireland for 175 to win by 6 runs.
Yeah, so a tight match there, very, very tense in the closing moments. Let's turn our attention now to Nikhil Uttamchandani for an analysis of what happened in this game. Nick, welcome back to the SportsMax zone. The West Indies girls had us on the edge of our seats this morning, didn't they?
Lance, I told you guys about these tournaments, and it's amazing because you would think, if you watched maybe a year ago when the West Indies played Ireland in the ODIs when they came to the Caribbean, actually I think that was 2 years ago, in 2023. I remember they comfortably defeated them. There were a few stand-up performances by the Irish, Pendergrass, etc. But the level of intensity, the level of anticipation we saw in that game, I don't think many were expecting it. And look, even with the rain adding another dimension of suspense, I mean, it's good that the West Indies go over the line. I just think they're going to have to go up a few levels if they're to beat the likes of Bangladesh and Pakistan.
Yeah, can I ask you quickly about the 181 for 6 off 33 overs? 46 by Stefani Taylor and Chanel Henry. The captain, Hayley Matthews, 23, and Zayda James got 36. How did you feel about that total?
To be honest, I thought it was a big moment for that batting lineup, and I'll tell you why. The fact that Hayley Matthews only got 23 out of the runs, and they already had to deal with a reduction in the overs, and others stepped up. I think Zayda James at 3, and again, this is where Shane Dietz must take some credit. The experiment in the warm-up games, it was a bold call to push her in such a high-stakes tournament, but it clearly is paying off. It's allowing her some more time and comfort at the crease, which is paying dividends for the other players at the other end who are more boundary scorers and not touch players like James. But I was proud to see the way Stefani Taylor batted, showing semblances of her best. But then also, I think the way Chanel Henry, this is what we expect from Chanel Henry each and every game. The responsibility she showed, I looked at her innings, the 46, just 7 dot balls faced, and she only hit 3 boundaries. So it really showed me that she's not just a boundary hitter, but she's more than capable of sort of weathering tough situations and being able to rotate strike quite freely, taking the opportunities the Irish gave to her whilst they were on the attack as well. So very impressive from her, and I think hopefully this is something for that West Indies batting lineup to build on going forward.
I thought they were a little bit cautious in their demeanor, disposition, and even the tactics in the field. But before we get to what took place in the field, going back to their batting performance and how you felt they performed in that regard, where they seemed a little bit reserved to me.
Yeah, I mean, you understand it when you think about the fact that it's a batting lineup that has depended so heavily on Hayley Matthews. And when she sort of gets so early, it almost looks like there's a shock sent through that batting lineup initially. But this is where I think the experience of a Shania Henry and Taylor came to the fore. Again, I credit Zeta James and her role in being able to occupy the crease and stop that constant fall of wickets in quick succession. And I think when between overs 26 and 33, they then were able to put their foot on the gas. In the end, it ended up being enough. Probably were maybe 15, 20, 30 runs short in the end.
Having said that, though, I was a little bit surprised that Karishma Ramarak actually stayed so late to be introduced into the attack. Could you explain or try to go into the mind of the skipper as to why things should have been delayed?
Yeah, it's funny because I think she actually goes under the radar, as sort of the West Indies, one of their better bowlers. And I look at her performances in these last two games. I'm more thinking maybe they believe they get more out of Shania Henry and Fraser, who they're only using with the new ball, surprisingly. And Hayley Matthews obviously bowls across the phases. But I thought after they were 56 for none, even before that point, seeing that you don't have a massive total on the board, and the fact that you would then need to get a wicket, you go to your better option. When she came into the attack, those 7 overs on the trot, I thought they changed the game. And after the 7th over, Matthews and Ramarat occupied that end for the duration of the innings. And I thought that changed the game because Fletcher and Allen were going for runs at the other end. And the two of them, each and every over, were able to pull it back and add some of that scoreboard pressure onto the Irish batters, which I think contributed to the wickets. So, look, she doesn't always show up with big wickets in the scorecard, but what she does with her value and her impact, I think it's invaluable.
Well, I want you to expound on the value for me because personally I believe that she's probably top 6, top 7 bowlers in the world. So how do you rate her as a bowler?
Well, to me, I think the T20 World Cup performance was the one that really stood out to me. When we were focusing on a few other options, the DeAndre Dottins, the Haleys, the Shania Henrys to do well, she, for me, was the standout. Mm-hmm. And after Fletcher, obviously, we talk about a lot at length. But I think Ramarat being a finger spinner, being an off spinner, tends to go under the radar, but it's just her control.
Yeah.
And again, she's quite limited to bowling in the middle. In T20 cricket, she can bowl 1 over or so at the back end. I think maybe, as you suggested, in a situation like that, knowing how sort of her control is and how economical her bowling is, maybe she can be used with that new ball because you know you're going to get that control of length. You set a field and she bowls to that plan. So it's food for thought for the future, but she has been and played a vital role in the West Indies winning that game.
Having said that, though, the girls seem nervous. As I said before, that they seem a little bit reserved, maybe in the context of the fact that they would have lost the opening game against a team that they shouldn't have lost to. So do you expect improvement in their play from here on out?
Yeah, definitely. I think the bowling for me, 56 for none in the power play, the length, there was no consistent length, no control of length, and we're used to seeing that from Shania Henry especially. She wasn't at her best. I think the bowling needs to be better. The fielding at times can be a bit better. I think there was an improvement in the batting. The way they rotated strike, the way they adapted without Hayley Matthews, those are good signs. But we need a complete bowling effort. They were good in the middle, they pulled things back. But in the power play, the control of length must be better. And Bangladesh, with Sultana, who's just scored 100, and even Pakistan, who've got better batters, they will come hard at the West Indies initially.
Yeah, they play Pakistan on Monday, Nikhil. I know that you've got a flight to catch. You're at the airport, so this will be our last question. We don't want you to miss boarding for your important flight.
I'm coming back for the next segment, man. Don't worry.
Oh, you are? I see you keep glancing nervously to your
left. I'm just making sure I don't lose it.
Yeah, you probably have to jump for the flight after a while.
Yeah, anything for the SportsMax family, don't worry.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so quickly, unconvincing their performance so far in both games. Yes, they lost the first. And although they won the second, still unconvincing. So does this Pakistan match on Monday, Nikhil, cause us to get very nervous about their prospects?
I think for me it's a must-win game because I look at what Pakistan's route to the rest of the tournament is and Bangladesh as well. The two of them play each other. Let's say Bangladesh are able to beat Pakistan. Then you don't want a situation where you have, the West Indies having to lose against Pakistan and then beat Bangladesh. So for me, it's a must-win. I think both the games are must-win. You don't want to leave anything up in the air to other teams. And especially the Scotland loss will be a huge setback because you expect Pakistan and Bangladesh to defeat Scotland. So, long story short, win both games, West Indies. The whole region is depending on you. We're staying up 12:30, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. at night watching you. Make the region proud, and hopefully, we see more inspiration from off the back of what Hayley Matthews has done in the first game and what Chanel Henry did with bat in the second game, and the way they held their nerve at the end. Let's not forget, they still, as unconvincing as it was, they were still able to hold their nerve and get the win.
Yeah, and compelling again, Hayley Matthews. Whether it's with the ball or the bat, she always finds a way to deliver for her team. Final question.
She's outstanding. So we always talk about her contributions with bat in hand, how much they depend on her, but just the ability to contribute each and every single game. You talk about players going through a purple patch. She's had a purple career. Literally, I struggle to remember 3 years ago when she wouldn't get consistent performances. She's really elevated her game, and I said it yesterday, after the last game on the show. I think when it's all said and done, she's got a phenomenal chance of being the greatest ever women's player to grace this game if she continues on this streak and maybe plays a bit more red ball cricket, or some red ball cricket, I should say.
Yeah. All right, Nikhil, thanks a lot, man. Great getting this discussion in with you, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, cheers, man. Thanks.
Yeah, Donald, this was very important for the West Indies last night. And Hayley Matthews bowling last night with 4 wickets, 2 wickets each for Ramarak and Alia Aline. Very critical because although Ramarak and Hayley Matthews were very tight economically, both at below 4 per over, they needed to take wickets. Because I get the impression that if Ireland had batted out the allotted overs, it would be problematic for the West Indies. So they were fairly containing in parts, but they needed to get those wickets.
Yeah, and that was the thing that was always going to be critical in terms of them getting the wickets. The total wasn't a grand one, so you knew that restricting them probably wouldn't have been the thing. And maybe that wasn't the thinking of Hayley Matthews in terms of holding back Karishma in the hope that she'd be able to keep it tight at the back end should it become closer to the end of the game. So maybe that was the thinking there, and it turned out positive for the West Indies in the end.
Yeah, and I've said on this show many times that Ramarak is the steadiest of the West Indies bowlers, and Nikhil used the term control, which amounts to the same thing. She's very steady. I would like over time for her to spin the ball a little bit more, which would make her a lot more dangerous. But she's steady. She's so steady. She doesn't bowl bad balls.
No, she doesn't.
And in a run chase like this, you needed Ramarak's input and then Hayley Matthews and her quality. And I referenced the question that you asked, Nikhil, just now about how long Ramarak took to bowl, because I thought that was a bit protracted.
Yeah, I think she was the seventh.
Sixth or seventh. So that was a little surprising. So her economy rate was 3.85. Hayley Matthews had a 3.78 economy rate. Those were the only economy rates that were really impressive, and they shared 6 wickets. So I would think that given the batting effort, which Nikhil rates as 20 to 30 runs short, I think the input of these bowlers, Matthews and Ramarak, were pivotal for the West Indies this morning.
You know what I'm thinking about the mindset as well, because I know that the coach has spoken about them being a little bit more attacking minded, especially with the bat. But the thing about the control that we mentioned and what Nikhil mentioned from the likes of Ramarak and company is that against these inexperienced teams, you kind of anticipate them cracking, right? If you just stick to the basics, if you just continue to be disciplined, they will be forced to actually make the mistakes. So I think that's what they're focusing on in terms of, okay, let's keep it steady, let's keep it tight, let's watch them make the mistake, let's watch them collapse. And that's what happened, because the run rate wasn't great in terms of what they had to chase. They probably touched 7 and over required, probably just a couple of occasions. But as far as what I saw, they just wilted under the pressure, and I guess that kind of played into the West Indies' hands in the end.
Yeah, so a good win for the West Indies, a much-needed win for the West Indies, because they would have been in huge problems if they didn't win this game. And I think they have to improve their batting. You know what? Coach Shane Dietz has said from he landed in the Caribbean and took this job that he wants the players to express themselves because he feels that it is an ideal philosophy, West Indies cricket-wise, for players to express themselves and play shots.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering now if he may be revisiting that approach with this team because I know that he thinks that that's the best way for them to play, but their batting has been so unconvincing. I'm wondering if he's now second-guessing his philosophy about what he wants this team to do.
I think they're probably just cautious because of these qualifiers. I think against the point that I made before in them being just disciplined and the opposing team cracking, I think that's what's happened in the aftermath of that first defeat.
Yes.
So I think that's what he's thinking now. I'm not sure if he's going to be second-guessing his policy,
yes,
especially against the bigger nations, because that's probably their best chance to make an impact at any rate. You'd like them to try and see what they can do during these qualifiers, but because they've lost that first game, I guess he doesn't really want to throw caution to the wind because of it now.
Yeah, well, Nikhil Uttam Chandani fans, don't go away because after the break, he's still hanging around there at the airport to talk to us, and we're going to talk some IPL cricket on the other side of the break. Back in a moment.